Welcome to the fifth episode of Chess Concepts for Beginners. Now, this is my fifth game, and this is a long game, so bear with me. Now, we're going to look at one of my games that I played when I was 450. The game starts with e4, e5, and queen h5. Oh, queen h5 and be live. Now, this opening you get when you're beginner level. Your opponent will go out with the queen and try to win your pieces. To battle this opening, you need to play knight c6 here, defending the pawn, maybe d6, but knight first, knight c6. And when the opponent tries to scholars mate you, you see the threat, and you can now play g6. This pawn is guarded, queen goes back to still checkmate. Now go knight f6 as a line. The opponent will perhaps play g4, but you can even play moves like d5 here. Yeah, d5, very good, attacking the center. Now you don't take this, but play knight to d4, for example. And there are many ways that this line could get very dangerous for white, as you win this pawn, and you will have more pieces developed. Of course, there's this, but you have to calculate it all by your own as well, or review your lines. But I played g6, and this is one of the ways that you lose the game, because after queen takes pawn, you lose the rook. What to do, what to do? You don't have enough experience, so I blundered the rook. Now here I fight back, I play d6, calmly developing, protecting everything. Now, it's very disappointing that white just plundered the queen as soon as it got out. It's my only active piece I have as black here. I am limited in development here. But I unfortunately don't take the queen. I play f5, just literally trying to target this pawn. I mean, that's strange. White plays b3, trying to develop the bishop. I would say that develop knights first. But okay, p3. I play queen d7, going for the threat again, because had I gone for this, I would have lost the bishop. So queen d7, now going for f takes e4, but the white now justifies the b3 and plays bishop c4. Now if I take, then I lose the bishop. So it is guaranteed trade here, unless I play d5, which I do. If he takes, now I can take with the knight, but I take with the bishop. I mean, you should develop this knight, now this bishop is open, but okay, that's fine. Now white goes to d3. It's strange because white is up 7 points of material. White is up a full rook and 2 pawns. So white should trade off pieces without thinking. That's just the way you win games. So bishop back to d3, and after knight to c6. Why is white being impatient here? White can play knight to c3, knight f3, castle the king as soon as possible, but he just blunders the bishop that is protected. Why are you taking a pawn that's protected? Okay, it's fine, it's fine. White is not even winning here. It is equal game because black has so many pieces while white has a lone queen doing nothing. Everything back rank. And even then, white plays g4. What is the purpose of g4? Because g4 is just thinking that you're going to win the knight next move. Thinking that I don't know how pawns move. You can't play chess like this at 400 level because players likely see that g4 threatens the knight. Like it's the only players will look at the move and it's just one purpose, taking the knight. But okay, let's see. g4 creates many weaknesses. Knight goes to d4, targets this fork and the rook at the same time. After f3, closing it up, I can go for the fork. But instead, I play conceptually a correct move. I castle. Now my king is out of danger. Knight c3, now I can go for the fork. I can also go for the check, which I do. Check is very good as well. King moves, and now I can go for this pawn. I can also develop more pieces. Very good decision here as well. developing more pieces out. White takes the bishop because he's still up material. I don't fault him for that. White here should play bishop b2. I mean, it's tough to say because a lot of things are hanging here all of a sudden. He plays knight e2. That allows me to take the knight, which is guarded by the king. And if the king moves here, I have many discovered checks because of the rook. So that's why white is losing here. But instead, I developed the bishop. It's also a good move, but you should look at checks, captures, attacks before you make any move. Any check or capture will have been good here. Any capture here will have been good. That is undefended here, basically. I don't hate this move. Now c4 here, another move that just attacks. I can go take this pawn, but you should not trade queens here when you are down material, because as you can see, white is now better here, because white is up material and the king is safe. Pretty safe here. So good move here would have been knight to queen to f7, and just going in with all the pieces, with all the minor pieces. But I play rook to f8, totally plundering the queen on the spot. What? Ay ay ay. How did I see knight being attacked in this position, but I did not see the queen being attacked in this position? Very strange stuff here. Black here should get more experience in playing because I guess I was tired here. So rook f8, I lose the queen, but I win the queen back. I win the queen back. I'm still down 2 rooks for a knight. That's crazy. But here goes white's knight, because he took this, I took this. That's the best option here. White is up 2 rooks for 2 knights, but knights are hell of a tricky pieces here. King goes back to g2. I would argue here that king on h3 is pretty safe, because if black tries to give too many checks, he will get his pieces forked. So that's just the way it works. Bishop b2 here would be very good, but white goes towards the pieces. Black can take many free stuff here, but not this time, because after king f3 this will be a fork, and even if you go and counterattack the rook, you're still down an exchange. And an exchange here after bishop b2, knight f2, white could get his pieces moving very quickly here, and target your pieces and take your pawns and promote another pawn. Like, a rook is better than a knight or a bishop. That's the thing. But king f3 doesn't happen. Instead plays h3, which allows the knight to go f2. The knights are very active, ready to take pieces. White, to his credit, doesn't plunder the rook. Plays rook to e1, attacking the knight. I give a check. I play g5, defending. Very good stuff here. Well, it's tough to say what white should do, because bishop b2 blunders knight to d3, and now both pieces are under attack, and lines here get very tricky. But okay. Rook to h check, e8 check. I like this move because now the rook can go target pawns. Rook g8, knight takes h3, and the game goes on. But let's see. Rook f8 here is played, and that fully blunders the rook. Sadly, it's easy to miss that move, and I find it. White here is still better. That is crazy. Sadly, the bishop stopped guarding the knight, so white takes it. I take the pawn, king to g3, knight back. Yes, d4 here. A good move as well, because it tries to target the knight. You should try to keep your minor pieces on the board, because then you could have some chances to win white's pieces or defend yourself. So knight takes d5 here, good. This endgame here is getting pretty tricky, as there are not a lot of concepts here to be said about. This square is covered twice, and white just lose another piece. But this is still drawable here because T-spawns even out, and knight versus bishop is a draw against the rook because the rook will sacrifice itself for one of the pieces and it will be a draw. But let's see. Knight f4, king f3, knight back. Only move because if you go bishop d2, defending the knight, then you get pinned and lose one of the pieces. So knight back, rook h7, king c6. Now the bishop is guarding the pawn, but does white see it? Does white see it and take the pawn? Ah, okay, white is pretty good. Pretty good. Bishop d4. Now I will press the arrow button. King e4 here is not good move because black is calculating checks and can win both pieces at the same time. And when white takes, then you run your king up the board and take these pawns and promote your queens. So knight c3 check happens because I don't see it. I do win a pawn, and that gives me good chances to win the game. Now I bring the king up. White is checking. That may happen in your games that they give a check and don't move the king towards the pawns. White should here keep the rook still and try to escort the king towards the pawns, but it's still very feeble position because you may get checked here. It's very tough to say. Very difficult endgame. But regardless, white gives checks, and when the king can go forward, it doesn't. King e3. Now here you should play knight c1. Try to go for pawns. A5, check, check, check. King comes back. I play a4 to try to get a passed pawn here. White checks. Sorry, white checks. King c2. Pawn to a3 is what you should do. When you have limited amount of pawns on the board, you have one pawn more than your opponent. You should not trade them. You should try to keep your pawn. It is protected. The quality of the pawns is much better than this pawn. And the rook cannot target this pawn easily. Because if I traded in this game. And my knight is attacked and this pawn is going to fall next move. That's why you have to calculate this sort of stuff. I play bishop e3 trying to win the rook because if he takes, then this is a winning endgame. But rook g6 is a check, and now white takes the knight, and what happens here is that white is going to sacrifice the rook for the pawn. Black gets close. Black will go on and on, but there will be check. And when the king moves, white will sacrifice the rook for the pawn, and it will be a draw. So here is the draw, and game ends. A very long game. The opening was queen h5 opening. I had no experience against this opening, so I did not react correctly. I lost the rook. I fought back nicely. Let's say the queen was not blundered. It was still a good game. I went for the center break. White, for no reason, sacrificed a piece and allowed me to develop. Played g4, another fundamentally wrong move, creating weaknesses, going for hope chess, trying to hope that your opponent blunders the piece. And then I castled. I played this very nicely until I did not look for checks, captures. I felt fatigued and did not pay attention to pawns attacking the queen. But there was some solid play as well. Not blundering too horribly, except this one. In the end game, you should look for more restricting moves, and now you should not look too much for checks. Look for checks that certainly win you material, but not for checks that just give your opponent time to move. Knight f4 check here just allows the king to go to f3, and now after knight d5, white has got their king towards their pawns. And here, there are not that many critical moments here, but you should try to look for checks that look for different opportunities for different checks. No, this check goes for this check goes for that, but you know, check, check, check. King should go towards the pawns when it can. Pieces should target their weaknesses when you can. Uh, you know, you should not rush with sacrificing one of your pawns as well. You should try to bring your pieces back and hope for magic to happen. But rook g5, the opponent does not take, and now you should try to hold your pawns together, calculate and evaluate if pushing is better than taking. Pushing in this position is definitely better because you can give a check. Black can safely guard the pawn, push this there, and white will soon run out of moves. But some endgames end in a draw, which is very surprising, but the game ends in a draw. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and I will do more. So see ya.